Franchise Lounge.
Great to be here, and thanks for having me, James. So delighted to take part. I never have a problem sitting and talking to somebody for half an hour about myself. Really, never an issue.
Well, we're here because we want to celebrate and learn from people who have been successful in franchising, and you have certainly done that. You've worked in franchising your whole life. I'd love to sort of go through it a little chronologically. Um, uh, uh, Maybe you could tell us a little bit about your first big franchising success, which was O'Brien's way back in 1988. And I would love to sort of talk to you about what you learned there and how you've applied it here and how things have changed.
In sandwiches, back in 1988 in Dublin, in Ireland, I'm guessing it was similar in the UK or anywhere else. I mean, sandwiches came in two flavors. They came in ham and they came in cheese. And if you were really racy, you had ham and cheese together. And they were wrapped in cling film and they sat on top of a newsagent's fridge. And that was the sandwich business. So the idea of developing a business where you did bespoke made to order sandwiches. We had our bread cut double thick, and being able to get what you wanted was very novel and very new. And it was around that time that Starbucks kind of first started coming out of Seattle, and I took a trip over to Seattle very early doors to see what all the fuss was about the coffee. And so we were the first in the UK or Ireland to come back with these paper cups with the funny lids, where you could have a cappuccino made to order.
Oh, is that right?
That's
Wow.
40 years
Did you,
ago.
was that an official visit? Like, did you have someone from Starbucks giving you the grand tour,
No,
or
no,
were
no,
you
no.
just like you
I
just
heard
flying in and visited shops?
exactly what's it all about. And then I came back and ordered some espresso machines and some paper cups with the funny lids, and got going. And so it became the sandwiches and coffee. And it grew over 20 years into a successful business, 350 outlets in 16 countries. Still a pretty decent business in Asia and Singapore and Indonesia and
Yeah, there's
Malaysia.
still 100+ units out there, right? Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. So it was great and great fun because I loved. I mean, I never no idea where Singapore was until we granted somebody a master franchise. Then it was great. I so enjoyed visiting that part of the world. It was really great. So yeah. So we built up a significant business, pretty much all franchising. But in case you think it's all a bed of roses, I actually went bust in 2009. So we got
I read
caught
about that. I mean, that
in
was a
the
huge,
downturn.
yeah, that was a huge economic downturn then. I'm always fascinated with people who are obviously successful, got talent, grown these things, but had a moment of, didn't work out. What would you do, Brody, today with all of the things that you've learned differently that would have changed the outcome for you personally with O'Brien's in 2009? Because I've read stuff, you kind of lost everything. I mean, you were stuck with a mortgage to pay and not a lot else. I know it's a humbling experience. It's actually happened to me, so I'm super sympathetic to it. I know I've learned from that experience. There are some things I'm not going to do again. And I just wonder, is there advice that you can give to other people who, so that they can protect their businesses?
Mm.
What lessons did you
Look,
learn from there
the,
yeah,
the philosophical bit is that life has its ups and downs, and everybody has their ups and downs. And so to
yeah,
think that somebody's going to set up a business and it's all going to be run perfectly smoothly for 50 years and then sell it, that's not real. So you have to accept that stuff comes out that you know recessions or coronavirus epidemics you can't control. You can only control what you can control. But if I look back at where it went wrong for me, I'd say that I wasn't hard enough on myself about the people I had working with me, and I had a bunch of people who I really liked, but maybe they weren't growing with the business at the same pace, and I didn't deal with that.
mm,
So this time round in this business, I spent much more of my management time interviewing, coaching, mentoring, and then if it's not really working, moving people on much more quickly than I did in my previous businesses. And I think I see a difference between kind of operators and strategists. So maybe I'm an operator at heart, but I need to put some strategists around me if I'm serious about growing the business. Um, the balance is so important with your team. So I'm a kind of a bit of a risk taker and a bit an optimist. I need to put some negative people around me to balance that. We can't all be optimists. It doesn't work.
So let's move to Camile Thai. Now, my understanding about the founding of this, you're just talking about luck and serendipity, that there was a little bit of luck and serendipity, that it
It
started as a
was.
Chinese restaurant and took a very rapid change. Can you tell us a little bit about how that happened?
Well, yeah. I'm in franchising and I've been in food for a long time. So one of the things I had recognized in kind of fast food or takeaway foods in the UK and Ireland was that the two biggest sectors of it, which are fish and chips and Chinese, have no brands in them. I was always intrigued by that. Why is there no brands in fish and chips? And why is there no brands in Chinese? They're such big sectors. They're so popular with people. And so my original business idea for what I have now with Camille was to do a kind of 21st century version of a Chinese takeaway. So if you think about them, and I'm generalizing because there is some good ones, but if you think about them, they tend to have awfully designed shops. There's no packaging, there's no marketing, they have menus that are way too big, there's no customer service, they don't necessarily understand you on the phone, there's no digital presence.
I've been to that place.
But they're very popular. They're really popular. And I thought, well, why couldn't we kind of do a version where you flip all that in its head? So you have a short menu, you have, staff in uniforms, you've got good customer service, nicely designed restaurants, decent digital online presence. And so I set up a business to do that in Chinese food, and opened it in 2010, and it became very apparent very quickly, and this is another bit of the grey hair, James, is that it wasn't working. and so where before, if I was younger, I might have flogged a dead horse a bit longer than I did, I immediately recognized it wasn't working. And as it happened, there was an article written about me in the Sunday Times at that time, and it was a bit of a kind of it was a kind of a bit of a spiteful article, but it was basically, the implication was, here's this so-called icon of the Irish Celtic Tiger, because I'd been pretty high profile with my O'Brien's business, which had gone bust. And here is this founder of this business now reduced to working behind a counter of a Chinese takeaway in a not very salubrious part of Dublin, and how the mighty have fallen, that kind of article.
Yeah.
So I wasn't that happy with it. I'll be honest with you. I didn't really. I've been trying to keep under the radar. I didn't want any profile till I got this thing off the ground. So I was kind of upset with it. And then, as it happened, some guy who read it, who didn't read the same into it that I did, but he got in touch with me and he said, I've got a business doing Thai food. He said, it's absolutely flying, but I've no idea how to expand it into a chain or brand it or franchise it or any of that stuff. Why don't we get together? So, really quickly, we did a deal on the back of a fag packet, and I changed over to his brand like 8 weeks after I opened my Chinese business. I took the signs down, changed the menu, changed the brand over to his. And I think that's a good thing as well about, when something's not working, is to try something else quickly before you run out of steam, because I would have run out of money.
Yeah.
And so changed over to his name. It was like turning the lights on. So when I tell you that Chinese business was a disaster, we couldn't take, I can't remember, like 1,000 a week. We couldn't take 1,000 a week. It was a disaster. And the first week with this guy's Thai brand over the door, same premises, we took 15,000 the first week. So it was like turning the lights on. It was extraordinary.
Wow.
So I've got my get out of jail card. That's amazing. And then I'm like, I want to have this guy's babies. Like, this is amazing work. This is just the best thing ever. And as I'm thinking I want to have his babies, he's thinking, oh my God, he's getting buyer's remorse. He's thinking, I've made a terrible mistake. It's all about my brand. I've done a deal with this guy for half the business. It's a terrible decision. I need to get out of it as quickly as possible. So it's like you're walking up the aisle with somebody, you've agreed to get married, and you're looking at your wife to be, and he's looking at you, and you can see he's not sure, and that's making you not sure. So anyway, we parted company after about 6 months, and I changed the name to Camile. Business dropped off a little bit, but not very much. And
so when you parted ways, did he keep his brand and you just changed?
Yeah, I changed the brand. Yeah, so I was telling someone, that in the first year, people would have considered me a good bet to start the type of business I was starting, because I've been at it a long time. So I'm kind of a veteran at it, and I took a lot of time to write a business plan about how this new business was going to work. And at the end of the first year of my new business, I had changed the name over the door 3 times, fundamentally changed the cuisine, gone into partnership with this guy and come out of partnership with this guy, and ended up going, I'm not really sure what happened there, but it seemed to work out okay.
So when you started Camille Thai and you had these three changes, um, you know, did you start it with this idea of delivery first, or was that one of the changes that came with the territory?
No, I think, look, what I kind of recognized when I was starting again with the business that became Camille, a few things really struck me. One was um, people's addiction to screens, like this universal addiction we all now have in the Western world to screens. And what that suggested to me was that people were going to arguably want to go out less, that they'd as soon spend time at home flicking through Facebook or Netflix than going out to a restaurant, and that they would have less time to prepare food, and so they'd be looking for ever more convenience. And that kind of really struck me hard. Second thing that came out of that was that because people are addicted to screens, the way they're choosing to interact with the world is through their screen. And so when we started Camille, we focused on home delivery. I looked around home delivery and I couldn't see any brands in it that weren't pizza. So, really well established home delivery brands in pizza. Deliveroo hadn't started by then. Just Eat was just getting off the ground. Same in the States, similar companies. So I looked at home delivery, nobody doing, no brands except there were pizza. And I thought, well, why couldn't we do an Asian brand focused on home delivery? And that makes sense because people are going to be looking for more convenience because of their addiction to screens. And and so out of that also, let's get going with an online presence immediately. Let's transact online from the get-go. That was it really. So it was kind of just a thinking that addiction to screens is going to lead to a requirement for more convenience, less scratch meal preparation, and how you choose to interact with the world is through your screen. And that was the genesis of it.
Right.
The fact that Thai food was like pizza, quick to prepare, holds well for half an hour while you deliver it, was really beneficial. I didn't see
Yeah,
that
yeah.
with, say, a burger concept, because chips don't hold well for half an hour, actually, even
Oh,
though
yeah.
everybody's delivering them right now, because it's the only game in town. A deep fried product like that just doesn't travel very well, but pizza travels well, and so does Thai food. So
When you started in 2010, if you're going to focus on delivery, obviously the user experience starts with your phone or your computer or your tablet or something like that. Did you build that internally? Did you outsource that? How did you think about building that experience?
yeah, so that's also a good question because it was a big issue with us. But we kind of started we kind of thought of a three-pronged strategy to start. Firstly, we start with white label, so you can get an off-the-shelf system that you can brand in your own colors and logos for no capital cost, and
Yeah,
it's a really good way to start the business. Now you end up paying these guys a percentage of your turnover, but for anyone who is thinking about starting a business, it's a great way to start because I think to start building your own bespoke system when you don't know anything about it is probably pretty wasteful, and you'll end up with something that's not fit for purpose. So we got a pretty good white label solution to get started, and then the second part of our system was we wanted to get an outside company to build our own one, and the third part of it was to bring it in house. So we're in the late part of the second stage, which is we commissioned a company 4 years ago in London to build our own online ordering engine, which we use, and it's doing over half our sales now, and it works great. But we will hire a CTO at the end of this year and start bringing that in house.
so people can order from you in multiple different ways. They can call you up, they can go to the web, they can get an app, they can probably show up and just ask
They
for
can,
something for
they
takeout. So
can, they can. God
so
forbid. How old
God
school?
forbid,
They actually walk in and
crazy.
order it.
What's the breakdown, and where do you see the most growth, and how has that changed, and how have you learned? Was there something that happened that wasn't expected as you look at how revenue comes in those channels?
Well, the thing that we didn't really anticipate was these aggregator companies. So the Just Eats, the DoorDashes, the Deliveroos of this world. When we
Right.
started, they weren't really a feature of the business.
No,
Now
that's
they're a
true.
huge feature, and a lot of
Yeah.
people choose to buy their food on those platforms, and they charge outrageous commissions. And even with the outrageous commissions they charge, they can't seem to make much money,
Yeah.
and we can't make much money. So it's a kind of messed up business model that
Are you
ultimately will
on
have to
are
be
you on
sorted out.
them? Are you on
Yeah,
those
yeah, we
DoorDash?
work
Yeah.
with Deliveroo and Just Eat,
Yeah.
and we still do about 75% of our business directly through us, but about 25% now goes through their platforms. So, so that was the big thing we didn't really expect and we didn't anticipate, and that's a really big challenge for the business because it's very hard to make money on those platforms. But I am philosophical again about it because I think it'll get sorted out in time. You know, the economic cost of us doing a delivery in London is about £5.50. What we charge the customer is £2.99. So effectively, even though we build it into the price of the dish, effectively we drop money.
You got robots in the kitchen. What's up with that? How's it going? You know, why'd you do it?
So why do we do it? So if you've ever been in Domino's pizza kitchen, so they basically they assemble the pizza, and then they put it through an automatic conveyor oven, and it comes out the other end cooked. Right, where they have in our kitchens are very similar, except where they have an automatic conveyor oven, we have a wok cooker, and where they have this automatic machine with a conveyor, we have 4 chefs standing cooking. So where they have no labor, we've got 4. So we look at that and we think, is there any way we could automate our process so we could have like that conveyor oven that Domino's have, reduce our labor costs, you know, arguably pass on some of that saving to our consumers with lower prices, but increase our margins, increase our profitability. So we found a system, you know, the process of cooking on a wok is actually kind of repetitive. So you put your food in and then you toss it around like this, and it's kind of repetitive action, and then you decant it into a cup. So we found a system that can kind of mimic that. And it's actually, I don't know if you remember as a kid, the old building sites with the cement mixers, the little ones in the trailer and the little bucket spins. You remember them?
I do. So, I'm old enough.
Yeah. So imagine taking out your wok cooker and replacing it with a line of 5 of these little buckets that spin around over a heat source. So we're in the process of trialing it at the moment, and we think we can make the 4 chefs that used to stand at our wok on a Friday night, we can make that 2 chefs. So 1 to feed the buckets and 1 to empty them instead of 4. That's a pretty major impact on the labor costs in our business, and particularly with the the use people of these aggregators now. One of the things we have to do with the DoorDashes or Deliveroo's or Just Eats is we have to find, if we've got to pay them those kinds of commission, we've got to find savings somewhere else in the business. The drones, which is much more interesting.
Oh, let's go to the drones then.
The drones. So yeah, we're arguably the first in the world commercially delivering by drones. We're doing it in a little town in the west of Ireland as a test with the Irish Aviation Authority. It's a town of about 8,000 people, so that's about 3,000 households. And they are ordering currently, as we speak, and getting delivered by drones every day. So
that's crazy. Brody, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. We've done thousands of deliveries now, and it works really well. When I say it works really well, the drones can fly in 98% of weather conditions, and 99.5% of the time our delivery arrives perfectly. So how it works is so if we're taking a first-time order from you, James, you do it on our app, and we send you back a message and saying, would you like a regular delivery or drone delivery?
Drone, please.
A drone. If you want a drone delivery, we have your postcode. So we send you back a Google Earth image of your house with a grid overlaid in it, and we say, pick a square where you want your food dropped. So presumably you're not going to pick your roof. You're going to pick the front yard.
Has that happened?
No, nobody's picked. No, we haven't. No, but I'm always asked that, but nobody's picked it yet. So we know where to drop it. So we cook the food, we load it into the drone. So currently we're just outside a little shopping mall in this little town called Oranmore, and the drones are parked on the roof of the shopping mall. So we have to cook the food. One of our guys runs up to the drone. It's really quick, and we load it into the drone, and the drone takes off to about 400 feet and flies at 50 miles an hour directly to the square you've picked out on your grid at your house. And when it gets to the square, it hovers over. It sends you a text message asking you, will you accept your order? And you accept it. The drone comes down to 40 feet. A little door opens underneath it, and the food comes down on a string right in the middle of the square you've picked. And then the string unravels from the drone, falls down, and the drone goes back to base. The average time for delivery from the time we load the drone till it gets to your house is 90 seconds. 90 seconds.
Oh, and now has the Irish Aviation Authority, or whatever they're called, figured out what they're going to do if every restaurant does drone delivery? Because I just imagine everyone going up in the air at the same time. Like, you
Yeah.
know, I
Well,
mean,
that's actually
air traffic
it's
control is a big deal for
it is,
planes.
and actually for each flight we do, each delivery we do, we file a flight plan with the Irish Aviation Authority, and we're given a corridor to fly down. And we fly back to base, that's cancelled out, and it's all done automatically, so you wouldn't even notice it. But that's a real challenge, is the future proofing of it. So if you can imagine a
Yeah.
London with 50,000 drones flying over at the same time for loads of different companies, they've got to make sure they don't crash into each other or
So
cause
that's fascinating.
accidents.
So you get a corridor that's yours
Yeah,
for five
absolutely.
minutes or something
Yeah,
like
so it
that.
doesn't it doesn't it doesn't interfere with civil aviation because they fly above 1,000 feet, I think.
Yeah, I wouldn't
So
be
it's not.
worried about that. I'd be worried
Yeah,
about
no, it's
all of
just the
the other
drones. Yeah.
drones.
Well, it's not an issue today because we've got 3 drones flying an hour and more, so it's not an
Yeah,
issue. But that is the issue, is future proofing it. It lends itself really well to suburbs. So a house with a garden, not so great. A downtown high-rise area, because you can imagine you can't deliver
yeah,
to the 40th story of an apartment block, but you will see apartment blocks building drone landing bases outside their front door. So we
yeah,
can't deliver to the 40th floor, but you can walk down to the reception and get it there. But it is
super.
a game changer. That's the thing. So this is
Yeah,
using technology to deliver quicker, cheaper, more environmentally friendly. Like, that's really cool. This isn't just the pure side of it. This is real. First of all, it's working. Like, it's actually real. And we're going to a second town in Ireland. We're seem to be world leaders in this at the moment. Even
yeah,
even the
you are.
Americans are kind of going. Um, this is, we're not as well advanced as you guys now, and it solved a lot of the issues people are concerned. There's no cameras on, there's no security issues. It's relatively quiet. It's a little noisy when it's landing now, but relatively quiet. But it won't work in all our outlets. So it won't work in areas where we can't actually land a drone. So we need the space, like a 20-foot shipping container, to land a drone. Some of our sites don't have that. Some of them are in too much of a built-up area. So it's one thing to say, would you be inconvenienced as a consumer with a drone landing beside you? And you probably won't, because it won't be very frequent. But if you're living next door to one of our restaurants and there's 100 movements a night of aircraft,
Right.
you mightn't like that.
Yeah.
So there are some sites that won't work. It'd be great for shopping malls, out of town retail parks where we have locations, good suburban places. But it's not going to work in every location.
Brody, thank you so much for spending time with us today. It's been great to get to know you.
Oh
I
no,
mean,
it's great, and I wanted to just to wish Rob well. I know you're launching in the UK. It's a fascinating business. We're definitely interested in finding out a bit more about it too, Rob. Just to say that, but I think it's a really interesting initiative. We're all about systemizing the business and trying to put processes into, so to manage what we're doing better. And we're actually in a technology. We realize at the moment we're buying over 50 pieces of software to run our business, and we buy them
yeah,
all individually without thinking, do they talk to each other, or are we future proofing it? So I think what you're doing is really interesting, and particularly because it's focused on our industry and our sector. So I want to just take the opportunity to wish you well with it, and every success, and we'll champion you.
thank you very much, Brody. I appreciate it. All right.
All right, thanks, guys.